ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Friday, August 21st. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Our text line this hour brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. We got a lot to recap from last night's action. The one thing that, of course, we can all agree on is Marshall soccer. It's definitely one way to get your heart pumping. You got to go the entire time to get the game winner. Did you watch that? Did you see the highlights of that yesterday? If you were there, it must have been electric to be there because you got a game which is tied. And you've got about, 10, 15 seconds to go in that contest. And what happens is the Thundering Herd, just basically the cardiac kids of the 2026 season. The Thundering Herd gets the win, a 2-1 victory over Fairfield at Hoops Family Field. It was a last-second goal from Adam Nagorin. Amazing, actually. Holmes just sends that ball in. And it finds its way to Gorn, and he just knocks it right in. It was scoreless first half. We knew yesterday that Fairfield would be a stiff opponent for the Thundering Herd. If you weren't with us yesterday, we had Bobby Iddings on who called the match. By the way, if you didn't see the game live, you didn't watch it live, the clip is on social now with Bobby and Ryan Epling calling that game. And that was just a fun call from both of them. And Ryan was right. Sometimes you just send it in and see what happens. So the Thundering Herd gets the win. And then on the flip side of that, of course, everyone's been talking about the upset. West Virginia beaten by Charlotte 3-0. So everyone was successful in the Sun Belt opening night except WVU. We'll see if that is the norm or if that was just a blip on the season. I still think that WVU and Marshall are probably going to be the two that will decide the championship of the Sun Belt this year. But that was amazing. I mean, outshot Fairfield 17-2, including 6-2 on goal. There were a lot of near misses in that game as well. So now the Herd can take that momentum. Got to go on the road, UC Santa Barbara. That's next Thursday. Unfortunately, the Marshall women lose against High Point. So Marshall loses 4-0. Fell behind. We're talking about early. Marshall just could not dig itself out of the hole. You get behind by 3 early in the game, other team can just sit back, right? So unfortunately, Marshall suffers its first loss. It's 1-1 now. Of course, that game against Ohio was postponed due to weather, so we'll see if that gets made up. I don't know if not having a game in between hurt the Herd a little bit. I'm going to say no, but still, it would have been nice to have just a little bit more action before you go into that. High Point now improves to 1-2. So High Point gets its first win of the season. Marshall loses for the first time this season, drops to 1-1. Herd's going to be home on Sunday facing off against Wright State. That's going to be 6 o'clock. Tickets are available now over herdzone.com if you're interested in supporting the women as they look to rebound against Wright State's going to be all right. This is going to be a challenging game. I'm not so sure that that's going to be just an easy feed me an opponent to get better type of game. All right, we'll get our text going in just a few minutes, and that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got a lot to unpack with the NCAA winning at least a temporary victory. The 10th Circuit Court of Appeals granting the NCAA a stay on an order that reverses a federal judge's decision that opened the door for college athletes who started college in the 22-23 season, have played 4 consecutive seasons. It opened the door for them to get that 5th season, and the NCAA has won a temporary victory reversing that decision. We're going to unpack that. What's that mean for Marshall? What's that mean for other programs? And, of course, that's been a big point of contention for a lot of people. When I say, what's that mean for Marshall? Unofficially, I think we're going to see players immediately lose that eligibility. Officially, we haven't got the language, the directive from Marshall University just yet. So until Marshall University gives us its standing on the issue or its understanding or what it has to do, what it's required to do, because this is the ruling that halts the federal. This is a federal stay. Now, there are individual cases that already have orders, and so the NCAA is going to, and it has indicated that it's going to basically go battling everybody. And yes, this is going to be a legal battle, but the clock is on the NCAA side when it comes to running that down, getting this season going and underway. We'll break it down with you. We'll get your text 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've also got baseball action returning tonight here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. The Pittsburgh Pirates are back in action, and we've got that game coming up tonight. It is a late one, 9:45 p.m. Hope you're able to stay up late if you want to catch some late-night baseball. The Pirates are taking on the Dodgers. Should be a fun one from Dodger Stadium. And again, we've got that game for you, 9:45 tonight, right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Early action tonight. When I say early, 9:40 first pitch. It'll be the Reds taking on the Diamondbacks from Chase Field in Arizona. Games of no interest to us. The Phillies will play host to the Cardinals at 6:40 tonight. Yankee fans, the Yankees are taking on the Blue Jays. That's at 7:05 tonight. Nationals will be at the Marlins tonight, 7:10 first pitch there. The Rays will face off against the Orioles at Camden Yards. That's a 7:15 first pitch. And, of course, the only other game that I see that maybe we're interested in, Guardians are in action against the Rockies tonight. That's 8:40 p.m. from Coors Field. And, of course, for those Cubby fans out there, 10:10 first pitch, Cubs and the Mariners. So that's almost a complete look at your Major League Baseball schedule. Don't forget, we've got the Pirates game this weekend as well as tonight right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. So we'll get your text in just a few minutes, and that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop. We will find out what this NCAA ruling means for the Thundering Herd, unofficially and officially. Once we get the official word, we'll have that clarity. But until then, as far as I am concerned, I believe that this prevents the student athletes that returned from staying eligible at this moment. We'll see what the courts have to say across the board, but we're going to break it down with you when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Save big on everything for your next project when you shop at Menards. White elastomeric roof coating stops leaks and restores flat roofs. It lowers roof temperature by reflecting heat from the sun, helping you save on energy costs. And it's easy to apply with a brush, roller, or sprayer. Shop our entire selection of roof coatings today on Menards.com. Plus, check our weekly flyer for all of the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
Metro Community Federal Credit Union now brings you all the tech that big banks have, but still has that personal touch of a member-owned community credit union. Apple Pay? Got it. Digital wallet? Yep. Message pay by text, online loan payments, even chatting with a real person, not a bot. Open accounts, sign documents, and manage your money all online. It's the big bank tech you need from the local community-minded credit union you trust. Metro Community FCU. Visit metrocommunityfcu.com today.
Summer starts here. It's the Moses Auto Mall of Huntington Ninth Street Live every Friday night in Huntington. Presented by Michelob Ultra, White Claw, Big Timber, and Country Boy Brewing. Friday, August 14th, it's Warner Law Office Night featuring the sounds of Cruise Avenue. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back and Go Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy Ninth Street Libations from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Featuring Tito's, Milagro Tequila, Rebel Bourbon, High Noon, and Lucky One. The after-show party takes place at Jerks at Pullman Square. Mark your calendars for August 28th with The Chase. Sponsored by Wendy's, Huntington Beverage Center, Sods, Apex Tech, The Great Outdoors Marine, Village Caregiving, Thoroughbred Express Wash, the City of Huntington, Marshall University, Blanco Glass Company, Marshall Health Network Arena, and Kidron Communications.
Pump up the volume.
Business moves fast. Orders roll in, deadlines close in. When you ship with USPS Ground Advantage, you can keep up with confidence. Every package stays in our secure network from dock to door. And with nationwide reach, dependable tracking, and upfront affordable pricing, you get built-in peace of mind. You run the business. We run the routes. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to learn more.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit 2min2x.org. That's 2min2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Dear John, I was hoping it wouldn't come to this, but you've left me no choice. I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is really serious, and lately you seem to really not care. I've been there for you since day one, and I know you think I'm gonna keep ticking, but no, my friend, I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to the good times, when we were more active and ate more healthy foods, and you checked on me every once in a while? Is that too much to ask? I don't want to leave, but unless you stop ignoring me, what else am I supposed to do? Remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Doing the minimum to control your high blood pressure isn't doing enough. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
We continue with your Friday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. It is a Friday. We open that text line up every day. We try to have a little bit more fun on the weekend. 304-396-TALK is the number. 304-396-8255 to be a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. You can find me on X as well, at Paul Swann. We'll get to your questions as soon as I possibly can on the X side of things. I'll get to your questions even faster with our text line. So the big news of the day. 10th Circuit stay in the NCAA versus Wise case. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize. But the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals granted the NCAA a stay this morning in an order which is effectively reversing a federal judge's decision which gave all athletes, we're talking about the class of 2022, began academic year 2022 and played 4 consecutive seasons, gave them the ability to come back for a 5th season. Now, this has been reported. The NCAA has put this out as well. The NCAA has sent a letter to schools. And honestly, we haven't seen a lot of schools just yet come out because they're still going over everything, what the impact is here. But now, this is what has been sent from the NCAA. It's a letter that was basically, in a nutshell, saying, look, the eligibility rules are back in effect. Quote, the 10th Circuit's decision to stay the preliminary injunction issued by a Colorado federal district court judge and Wise permits Division I to return to the status quo before the district court intervened. This is according to Scott Beerby. He's chief legal officer for the NCAA. This is what he wrote. Also, it says, effective immediately, the age-based eligibility rules will be implemented as the Division I membership intended. Now, there's some clarity here. If a student athlete was under this preliminary injunction, no longer eligible. That was a question I received just a while ago on X, and I posted a response there as well. But here we go. If you're a student athlete and your eligibility was granted, you regained your eligibility based off this decision by the Colorado Federal District Court judge, you're not eligible now. And that includes all the student athletes that returned for Marshall University. I mean, we're talking about Boogie Trotter and a host of others. So those student athletes are no longer eligible, as I understand it, because those student athletes returned to Marshall. They got their eligibility back based off of this court case, based off this federal judge that opened the door for them. Now, there are other states that have already made decisions. The NCAA is basically getting all the lawyers ready. If you're a lawyer right now, wow, I should have been a lawyer. That's where the money's at, right? The law profession. I should have been a lawyer. Those lawyers that represent the NCAA will be probably descending upon all of these other cases. And they're going to basically come out and say, I mean, now, again, this is temporary, but still the NCAA has time on its side. You're going to run out. You're going to run out of time. I mean, if you are protected under this federal ruling, and then the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals says, no, we're pausing that, so you're no longer eligible. Now, what do you do? I mean, we're going to see court cases in every state. Are we going to see a lot of filings? We saw some filings as well. There were a lot of state court lawsuits. It was basically, we don't trust this, so let's go ahead and file as well, because the NCAA is going to have to go and fight. And I have the impression that the NCAA is ready to go. This is an aggressive NCAA. I've not seen this kind of aggression, defensive posturing. Look, we've made a ruling. We've set policy. We're serious about this. So now, what does that mean? If you're a student athlete and you got your eligibility back, you've been with the team, you've been practicing, you've been participating, you've been getting ready for the season, and then you've been told not so fast. So now you got to turn your playbook in again. You have to sit on the sideline. What are you doing here? Yeah, how do you go about this? And for several student athletes, these go beyond just those at Marshall University. For several student athletes, decided to return because, hey, look, one, the money's going to be better. The money's probably going to be better if you are an undrafted player. You're an undrafted player, or maybe you're on the practice squad. You get another year to kind of play. If you're a good enough player to get a solid NIL deal, you probably make a little bit more money, give an opportunity to look at your situation. Maybe you improve your stock. You know, everyone's got a reason, their own individual reasons, or this is an opportunity for you, obviously, to, one, make money, two, continue your education, three, maybe you just want to play. Everyone's reason is different. So there's not one single reason why a lot of these players decided to come back. But a lot of it is financial. A lot of it is revenue, because if you're not a student athlete anymore, you're not an NCAA eligible athlete. You're not a football player. You're not someone who's on the team anymore, and you don't have a professional avenue. So if you're a football player, you're a really good football player. There's only so many slots in the NFL. But you're good. You're really good. You're a good college player, and you can make a difference. And along with that, you can make some money. You can make some really good money depending on your situation. Because, again, just because you're a really good college football player doesn't mean you're going to make the NFL. We've seen it time again. Doesn't translate sometimes. But if you're a really good college football player, the money's better. That's why we've seen a lot of players not go immediately, not go to, say, the NBA or try to go early. Instead, you're looking at your opportunities. You're actually looking at, okay, I'm going to stay the full time playing college football, because on the way, if I'm good enough, I'm going to make more money. Depending on where I go, I'm going to transfer. I'm really good here. And so I've shown that I'm really good. I can get to the next level or the next school that's going to pay me more. And then if I show that I'm really good here, then they're either going to pay more to retain me, or I can go to the next school and show how good I am and maybe get even more money. So you could start, say you could start your career at Marshall University. You can start your career at Marshall University. But then you decide, hey, I'm going to move to Southern Miss. So you could start your career at Marshall University, then you could go to Southern Miss, thinking you're elevating yourself. And then you're at Southern Miss as you elevate yourself, or try to anyway. Then you could go possibly, say, to Memphis. You could go from Marshall to Southern Miss to Memphis, looking for the next big thing, trying to elevate yourself. And you can do that with the eligibility. You don't have to give it up to try to chase that career in the NFL. If you think you're good enough, but the money's really good, it's probably going to be better right now at the college level, you can do that. You can hop from school to school to school. Now, with all of that said, sometimes some of these student athletes just want to play. And that's honest and fair. Just want to play. I want to be treated just like everyone else. I would like my final year. There will be a lot of people that will financially be harmed by this. There's going to be a lot of cases where, hey, I'm financially harmed by this new rule change. But then you've got the freshmen that are coming in that are possibly going to say, look, I'm harmed by this now because I've got to compete with these formerly ineligible players that are now eligible again. And so I got to compete for their job. I can't move up as fast and improve myself. I'm being harmed by that. Because now my spot's lowered. I'm not coming in able to take a spot right away or to compete for a spot right away because the guy's spot that I'm competing for that I was probably going to get, well, the guy is back. Case in point, who's taking Boogie Trotter's spot? And I only say that just for illustration here. Who's taking Boogie's spot? Nobody's taking Boogie's spot. Boogie comes back. Boogie's a starter. It's Boogie. Tremendous boost for the Thundering Herd that's no longer available, if I understand this correctly, which I believe I do. Now, again, if you are an athlete and you are a named plaintiff in a separate state court case, which these Marshall student athletes currently are not, a named plaintiff in a separate state court case where judges have issued specific rulings or temporary restraining orders, TROs, which overrode the NCAA's age-based eligibility limits, you're not eligible. So if Marshall made these players eligible based off of the federal ruling or allowed them to come back, because the ruling allowed them to come back, and these student athletes were covered under this federal ruling. And now that this federal ruling has been paused by the court, the 10th Circuit, those student athletes are not eligible. There will be no penalty to Marshall University or any other athletic institution, any other department, because they were deemed eligible at the time by the court, and then now they're not. And so there won't be any penalty. The NCAA has stressed that look, they were eligible, now they're not. You're not going to be penalized for that. At the same time, though, the big word is not eligible. What does this mean for the court system? We think we know what it means. It's going to be overloaded. But again, nothing official, a little closer to home with Marshall University. Nothing that has come out to say, here is the official stance from Marshall. Here's what we are doing in relation to this letter from the NCAA and, of course, this 10th Circuit stay. This is what we are doing. And, of course, that doesn't mean, does that stop players from filing lawsuits? And probably not, and it's going to happen. Just how far would these players take it in each individual state? But there are states where there are players that are eligible right now because of the fact that the state courts got involved and said, yeah, these players are eligible. Yeah, California is big right now. Colorado, Georgia, Tennessee, I believe. I think Texas, Louisiana, just a few off the top of my head. I think Kentucky is pending. I believe that South Carolina is in that range as well. So there are some athletes, there are some states where these players have been deemed eligible. And so the NCAA is going to have to go and now battle those issues in court. Of course, coming with it, its big 10th Circuit stay to help strengthen its case. And then if you've got this federal stay, And you have a couple of states that are saying, our eligibility here is not questioned. Our student athletes are eligible. We say so. Will the conferences get involved? Because if Georgia can roll with fifth years and Alabama can't, how's that going to play out? Definitely not going to play out the way you think it's going to. Because now it's going to be, wait a minute here. We're going up against potentially ineligible student athletes here. We're going up against, that's not fair because we can't use our fifth years. You shouldn't be able to use your fifth years as well. And then that's going to open up an entire different can of worms. And again, should have been a lawyer. I am not a legal expert. Please do not take any legal advice from me. I will give you good advice. Just don't take it to court because I don't know if it's going to stand up. But, hey, if you've got life questions, I can help you with that. I've made enough mistakes in life. I think I can navigate you through some of them. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll talk more about this stay and what it possibly means for student athletes, including at Marshall University, when we continue at this Friday juncture of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Looking for a financial partner that puts people first? At Huntington Eyes Federal Credit Union, you're more than just an account number. You're family. Whether you're buying a car, saving for the future, or looking for a checking account that fits your lifestyle, Huntington Eyes is here to help you with friendly local service that you can trust. Stop by the main office at 481 West 8th Avenue in Huntington or learn more online at huntingtoneyes.com. Huntington Eyes Federal Credit Union, serving our community and helping our members achieve more, one financial goal at a time.
Feeling ready for a change? The Women Warrior Summit returns Friday, October 23rd in Huntington, West Virginia. This year, we'll explore the power of reinvention with stories about growth, change, and beginning again. Visit womenwarriorsummit.com to learn more.
Our Kindred Communications family of stations reminds you of the need for blood donations to the Red Cross. Blood is always needed. It may save your life or the life of a loved one. This reminder is brought to you in part by
WVU Medicine Jackson General Hospital, leading healthcare across our region, serving Jackson and Mason counties. BrodyNash.com, Century 21's top realtor since 2015, proudly serving West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky.
Serving my country required sacrifice that changed my life forever. I remember the day I came home. Because of my injuries, this house wasn't right for me anymore. I remember the narrow doorways, the small bathrooms, the shelves out of reach when in my wheelchair. Every day was full of obstacles. I felt trapped. I remember a better day, the day my family received a specially adapted custom home from Homes for Our Troops. That day changed everything. Now we have a safe and accessible home to enjoy the freedom I fought for. This place, our home, is exactly what we needed to rebuild our lives.
Homes for Our Troops builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans and enables them to rebuild their lives. Join our mission at hfotusa.org.
Oh, hi. Do you know what this is the sound of? It's the sound of me getting rewarded for doing my part to prevent wildfires. See, right now I'm getting a big, remarkably heartfelt bear hug from Smokey Bear. Thanks, big guy. And now we're shaking. Okay. First, I made sure there were no low-hanging branches when I set up my campfire. Hey, Smokey, let me down for just a second. I need to make sure everyone can hear this. There we go. Then, when we were packing up to leave, I drowned out my campfire, stirred it, drowned it out again, and then made sure to feel it if it was cold. Oh, Smokey Bear really loves it when you do that, don't you, Smokey? Oh, he lets his hugs do the talking. Visit SmokeyBear.com to learn tips to prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Thousands of American troops have come home from the war with post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injuries.
I'm going to have my good days and my bad days, and I really don't like those bad days.
Help the USO support these troops. Hear their stories at usoinvisiblewounds.org.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue with this Friday edition of Your Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Time to hear from you. Let's get that going. Text line 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. First up, texter says, with everything the NCAA has ruled on and has fought for, stating that they are for the student athlete, that this is the hill that they decide to die on. I think that these kids should get their eligibility since they will be having their eligibility moving forward. With that being said, this is another example and probably a discussion for another time about our courts being involved in something that they should not have jurisdiction in. Appreciate the text. Unfortunately, we've got a litigation society. It's a good thing and it's a bad thing because there are a lot of people that need legal protection. There are a lot of people that need relief, that have legitimate, genuine issues, problems that needs ruling upon by the judicial system or the legal system. Yeah, I get it completely. It's nice to have as protection. And then we've got Congress worrying about the state of college football, state of college athletics, and the Protect College Sports Act. Sure, there are a lot of other issues that are going on in the world. This is the toy department of life. I've come to that realization a while ago now. Sometimes I still need reminding, but this is the fun part of life, right? I'm talking about at 5 o'clock, everything else I do in the span of a day, at 5 o'clock, I get to come in here, sit down, and I get to talk about sports. For a lot of people, that's a dream job. For a lot of people, they're in awe of me. And hey, I'm just like you. I'm cool, just like you. I'm blessed to be here. I'm in the fun zone right now. I get to talk about college sports. I get to talk about student athletes. I get to talk about sports with you. It's fun. We all have opinions, and that's great. But still, it's fun to talk about this. But then when money gets involved, it gets a little different. It becomes a little nastier sometimes. And all we want is a level playing field. And to the texter's point, I appreciate your text again, that the eligibility could have been handled a lot better. Like, hey, here are the new rules. Here's how we're doing this. If you're a student athlete that's coming in, you're going to be under the new rule. If you haven't even begun your college career yet, this is how we do it. This is where we start. We start with the new class that's coming in. Now, for the student athletes that are in the current model, I think there was a setup, if I remember correctly, it's been so long ago, that, okay, you can either get this or this, but, whatever benefits you, here's what your clock looks like. And then you have these student athletes that had already departed, had already graduated, and they now are looking at this like, wait a minute here. That's not fair to us. we don't get to have the opportunity to complete another year, compete or play or get another year back. We don't get that opportunity. So how do you make it fair for everyone? Because you have to start somewhere. There has to be a line somewhere for a new rule change. Because then, well, that's not fair. They got the, why don't we get the extension? Why are they getting it under this model and not us? So you got to have a line somewhere. I think the NCAA could have come up with maybe a smoother transition. I don't know what that transition could be other than just grandfather. Hey, look, your grandfather did. But for everyone that's coming in now, you start now, you are under this system. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. You're in this system. This is where you start. That might have eased this up a little bit. So now you have a federal case. You have states that have basically jumped in. And let me honestly say to you, do you think that a state that is big in football is not? Do you think that Georgia, you think a judge in Georgia is going to go, I like the Bulldogs, but I don't think this is right. I'm not saying there's bias in Georgia, but yeah, I'm saying there's bias in Georgia. I'm not saying there's bias in Texas, but yeah, I am saying that as well. I'm not questioning the professionalism and the legal system in Texas or Georgia, but yes. Hey, if you're in Ohio, nope. You don't have a TRO injunction right now on the state level, a local case. You don't have that. But if you're Georgia, yeah, you got players that are under a TRO right now, and the NCAA is going to have to go down to Georgia. Going to have to go down to Texas. Have to go to California. And the NCAA has indicated it's going to right now. And now the issue is going to be, and partially, top of my head here, I touched on it earlier, is how's this fair? How's this fair across the board? This is really not fair now. Whichever way it goes, the current model is not fair. Because now, if you're in a state like West Virginia, and you get Boogie Trotter back, and again, I'm bringing Boogie up because football is fast upon us here. You get Boogie back, and you reintegrate him into the team. Then you don't have him. So the dynamic changes for a team like Marshall. But Marshall has to face off against other teams that may not have to play by the same rules right now. All sports, because there are some states that have allowed student athletes to have that fifth year, where the federal ruling opened the door for all student athletes. Now that that's been paused, the state rulings are the next items on the agenda for the NCAA to try to make the case, get them thrown out, get them paused, whatever, because you have so much imbalance right now. And where's the bigger harm right now? Is the NCAA going to be harmed more by these returning players? Or will the returning players be harmed more if they are no longer eligible? What about the incoming players that might be harmed by having them here? Are these players coming back for monetary reasons or for opportunities to continue and play? Again, everybody's reason is different, and I'm not going to question anyone's reason. The general consensus, wrong, right, or indifferent, has been most of these players that are coming back, it's money. And that's the real reason. There's money to be had. It's on the table. 304-396-TALK is the text line, 304-396-8255. And again, that's something that's an individual situation. I can't say for certain that every student athlete that has come back just doing it for money. It doesn't make sense. Every student athlete didn't come back for money, because it's not just football or basketball. It's other sports as well. But for the student athletes that came back for money, are they going to be the ones that will fight harder and just bring everyone else along with them? Or has the NCAA gotten the victory that it needs to really run the clock out on this? Because how many weeks can we go? You know, how hard is it to bring someone back onto your team in week 4, week 5? Hasn't been able to practice, hasn't been able to work out with the team. Because being ineligible means you're not on the team. You're not in meetings. You're not in conditioning with the team. You're not working out, practicing. You're not doing anything with the team. Now, you can keep yourself in tip-top shape individually and then try to work yourself back in. That's always a possibility. But at the end of the day, you're not with the team. And then what if you're named eligible? And we're talking about week 7, week 9, week 11. You know, how do you reintegrate into the team? Will there be a roster spot for you at that point? Because Marshall University and other schools have got to move on eventually. It's like, okay, we've got to fill this roster spot up here. We can't just wait. Some schools can absorb the waiting. Others probably have people like, okay, you know, we had a roster spot for you. We don't now. What's that going to look like? That was the big question, you know, when Marshall released his statement. Hey, you know, this means that, you know, these student athletes are eligible, and, you know, where we have roster availability, we'll happily welcome them back. But now we wait for Marshall to release its individual statement. But at the end of the day, this is a giant cluster. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. That's the text line for today's edition of The Drive. Metro Community Federal Credit Union now brings you all the tech that big banks have, but still has that personal touch of a member-owned community credit union. Apple Pay? Got it. Digital wallet? Yep. Message pay by text, online loan payments, even chatting with a real person, not a bot. Open accounts, sign documents, and manage your money all online. It's the big bank tech you need from the local community-minded credit union you trust. Metro Community FCU. Visit metrocommunityfcu.com today.
Looking for more than just a job? Build a career with C.J. Hughes Construction in Huntington, West Virginia. For more than 80 years, C.J. Hughes has been building the infrastructure that keeps our communities moving, and now they're looking for great people to join the team. They're hiring CDL dump truck drivers, Class A starting at $26.50 an hour and Class B at $23.50. They also have openings for heavy equipment operators, laborers, servicemen, and fusion professionals, pipe layers, and flaggers, with competitive pay based on your position and experience. If you're reliable, have a strong work ethic, a valid driver's license, can pass a pre-employment drug screen, have a clean background, and are willing to travel, they want to hear from you. Enjoy competitive pay, medical, dental, and vision insurance, a company match 401k, paid vacation, and opportunities to grow your career. Apply today at cjhughes.com or call 304-522-3868. That's cjhughes.com or 304-522-3868. CJ Hughes Construction, safety, quality, production.
No matter where you are in life, Mount West Community and Technical College isn't just about an education. It's a step toward your future. We provide the hands-on support you need with classes that fit your life. At Mount West, we know you by name because here, you're more than just a number. Mount West Community and Technical College, because you matter here. Visit mctc.edu to apply today.
Hi, I'm Kelly Clarkson, and I've toured the country dozens of times, and there's one thing every state has in common: childhood hunger. The sad truth is that 17 million kids don't know where their next meal is coming from, or if it's even coming at all. Yet there are billions of pounds of surplus food around the country at farms and warehouses that could help end this injustice. But all that food is useless if it doesn't get where it needs to go. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank. Find out how at feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We appreciate you being a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We've had an interesting go of it today. NCAA, a temporary victory in its efforts to enforce its eligibility rules. And so now, until we get an official notice from Marshall University, I'm going to go on my assumption that all of the newly renewed eligibility, if you're a fifth year Marshall student athlete right now, if you're someone who got eligibility because of the federal case which just got paused, then what do you do next? And we haven't got the official note on that, but I'm under the umbrella of, will there be a local case? Will there be a state case? Will there be something joint? Will student athletes at both Division I institutions come together and say, look, will you do something a little closer to home? Will you do something statewide? What do you try to do here when you look at what your options are just next? And again, the timeline is going to be completely FUBAR. And will these student athletes run out of time? Now, if you're a basketball player, you got time. If you're a football player, clock is ticking. NCAA at this point has the high ground, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you for being a part of today's show here on ESPN 94.1 at AM 930. If you would, you can find me on X at Paul Swann. I would appreciate the follow. Boost those numbers. Also, you can listen to the podcast. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Appreciate you being a part of today's show. I appreciate you being here with me. And we'll do it again on Monday as we get closer to the start of college football.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.